And what's more exciting is the fact that this sort of value system really builds a lot of resilience to deal with these challenging opportunities in challenging times. Woohoo! What an amazing day to be alive. And well, it's moments like these. Where I come from, we say, Boomshalaka. It's a beautiful day, as I always say. My name is Clint Verghese. I'm an artist, an entrepreneur, and an internationally certified happiness coach. Well, some of you might know me as that happy guy who's constantly in front of your screen and telling you with tips and tricks to stay happy and motivated in life. While some of you might have seen me hosting lifestyle, travel, adventure, and motorsports show on the popular youth entertainment channels like MTV and VH1 India. But what's more exciting is the fact that a wise person had once said, the real sign of a champion is his or her ability to look at every crisis situation as an opportunity to grow and evolve. How true is that? In one of the most challenging times of humanity, we are navigating through it because, of course, we have the COVID frontline warriors who've been working day in and day out. And more importantly, also, this time requires a special shout out to a lot of other champions who have been dedicated and committed to making this world a happier place. My granny used to tell me, adding value in people's lives is the highest form of empowerment. As I grew up, that had a very profound impact on me. Some of the biggest learnings in my life have come from the stories that have been narrated by my grandparents, the tales they have told me, more importantly, the wisdom that they've shared. It has really had a profound impact on the way I think, the way I process information, the way it makes me feel, and so on and so forth. What do I tell you about myself? Born and raised in an average South Indian middle-class family where I was fed with values, ethics, and morals for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day, everywhere. And I think that's actually a strong sense of advantage when you are born and raised in a land where opportunities are limited, but the amount of people who aspire to have those opportunities or subscribe to working towards making those opportunities happen. And there is a ratio disparity, a lot of people to each seat that you have, be it the school you study in, the college you grow up in, or the jobs that you apply for, in general, for every infrastructure that is built around you. And what's more exciting is the fact that this sort of value system really builds a lot of resilience to deal with these challenging opportunities in challenging times. And I'm very thankful that I'm born and raised in a place like this with the value system that we've been born with. Before we move on, I have to share with you what is my vision in life. And to understand that, I have to narrate another story that my grandfather had told me. A hardworking, a passionate, and a purpose-driven farmer, a Malabari farmer. So, during summer vacations, when we would have holidays in school, we would travel from Mumbai to Kerala, my ancestral place, and spend a lot of time with my cousins, my grandparents, and the beautiful land out over there. Every day waking up to the smell of the earth, the chirping of the birds, the sun is shining bright up there. And amidst the whole nature vibe, I remember spending some time with my grandfather. And one day I asked him that, Grandpa, you're so old, don't you want to retire now? You're already in your mid-60s, late 60s. Don't you want to retire? Because, in the cities, when I talk to my father, he talks about a future where he can be retired, he can relax, he can have fun. And my grandfather asked me a simple question. He asked me, Clint, what according to you, or who, can you define who is a good farmer and who is a better farmer? Who's a good farmer and who's a great farmer? What is my identification? How would I identify or how would I define who is a good farmer and a great farmer? The naive boy in me said a good farmer is somebody who produces good quality crops, and a great farmer is somebody who produces a lot of good quality crops. born and raised in a very urban sort of an environment where capitalism very intense on you, and the idea of success or greatness is measured by the achievements that you've had, the success that you've had, the things that you've been able to acquire for yourself. My grandfather looked at me, he laughed at me, and he said, oh, yeah, I know this is what they teach you in school, but the real difference between a good farmer and a great farmer is a good farmer works hard for his family and relatives, while a great farmer wakes up early morning, spends that time in the sun, sweats it out, nurtures the crops, the plants, the fruits, the vegetables, the trees with so much of love and care, patiently waits for months to harvest the produce and eventually put it out in the market, is only because that great farmer's intention is that the produce that he gets can be used to help his country eat a nutritious meal and be healthy. And I was like, oh my God, Grandpa, that's really intense. I still remember this is something that he had told me when I was really young. And that remained with me as I grew up. And that shows the power of a purpose-driven life. The fine line of difference between purpose and passion, I honestly keep getting asked. So let's look at it this way. If you had 100% as your boundary, right? And if you add passion over it, suddenly the boundaries are burst over. You can jump beyond the parameters that you have held yourself within. But the idea of purpose is even greater. When you bring in purpose, the limit is infinity or so. It's beyond even what passion can bring along. Because when you talk about passion, passion is what you do with your skill set, with your knowledge, with your mindset for yourself. Because you're passionate about it. It really makes you move mountains. It gives you a driving force. But purpose is the same thing, using your knowledge, your skill set, your mindset for the larger impact of creating a difference in the world. Not just for yourself. It doesn't end with you. It just starts with you. It begins with you. And that's the difference between passion and purpose. And, it's a very exciting segment today because what I'm going to talk about today is not my journey. While some might call it a vision, for some it's an aspiration, for some they call it the potential reality in the future. Well, for now, let's call it the unforeseen journey of India. I want to talk about the role of the youth of India in helping India or leading India to become a global superpower in the coming decades. Well, the topic sounds very exciting, and there are a lot of stats that might complement with the topic that I'm talking about. But before I begin the conversation, I want you to know one important thing, right? The reason why I'm bringing in this conversation is not stemming from a sense of nationalism or patriotic love. It's based on two things. Some stats and figures that are globally validated by agencies and authorities who believe and who foresee the future and predict and forecast what tomorrow holds. Second, and this is something that's really closer to me, it's my belief in human potential, in what can be done when mankind is self-motivated and the kind of differences that it can bring along. The whole segment, the whole conversation, I've broken it down into three parts. The first part is we're going to look at what is a superpower. We're going to define what a superpower means. The second part is we're going to do a SWOT analysis of India as a country and the future that we're looking at. And the third is my favorite of them all, is the driving force that can help India become a global superpower. So let's get into the segment. I truly believe you guys are really excited. If you guys are excited, I see a lot of you guys joining live. Just give me a thumbs up. Let me see you guys giving some emotions. Yes? Oh, all right. Perfect. Looks fantastic indeed. I'm super excited. So let's get into it. Let's deep dive into it. The first segment is we're going to look at what do we mean by a global superpower, right? It's not about being a country who projects a lot of power, who wants to rule over the world. That's not the rational idea of a global superpower. There are four parameters into which the idea of global superpower is defined upon as. A country that can project power or bring about a larger influence in 4 categories. First, economics. Second, technology. Third, military. Fourth, political and cultural impact. So we're looking at, in today's times, we look at countries like the United States, Russia, China. All of them have been very instrumental in bringing about a lot of differences in the world as far as these 4 categories are concerned: the economic, technological, military, and cultural and political aspects in the world. We're going to look at now, that's the first part of the talk. That's the first part of the segment that I want to stress on. The second part of the segment is what we call as the SWOT analysis of India's future, considering the past and the present. So what do we mean by the SWOT analysis? So it's a management framework that was developed by a gentleman called Albert Humphrey at the Stanford Research Center in the 1960s. And he and his team came up with a model that helped organizations become more productive and efficient. So the SWOT analysis, just to bring it in better light, is SWOT, it means strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. Perfect. So then let's look at a couple of important stats. Of the 4 parameters that we discussed about what defines a global superpower, the impact a country has upon the 4 parameters, right? So if we just quickly look at some of the strengths of India, include India has a rich culture of ancient civilization. India has had so much of impact in the world as far as mathematics, astronomy, literature, art and architecture, religion, philosophy is concerned. And this is something that has been on for thousands of years. We've traded around the world since the ancient times, and we've learned so much from the world, shared so much with the world. We're also known as the economic powerhouse of the world, with a population of over 1.34 billion people. We're the second largest populated country in the world, the largest democracy, the largest English-speaking population, which makes it more global. Education has decently refined the way the world looks at India. Well, we've spoken about the brain drain concept, where a lot of educated Indians have migrated across to various countries. But one of the benefits of that is also that the world today looks up Indians as people who are far more educationally advanced, technologically advanced, with our own Silicon Valley in Bengaluru and in Hyderabad. The kind of technological enhancements and the impact that we've been able to bring to the world is insane and intense. We have the 4th strongest military in the world. We are highly involved in the UN peacekeeping reforms. Well, just to name a couple of our strengths, right? We are the office of the world. World over, we provide a lot of data-centric solutions and a lot of the call center revolution that made the tech industry boom in India, and so on and so forth. There is, talking about the strengths, there is so much of it, but we can't forget the weaknesses that we have. Some of the core competencies that we need to work on is they're still at some level, because of too much of regional affiliations that we have in the country, that there needs to be a better national character. A lack of national character does exist at some level. Unemployment, the overpopulation, the lack of widespread access to medical and educational infrastructure and facilities are some of the weaknesses that we have when we look at a country like India and the problems that we face. Some of the opportunities that we can look ahead are, especially with the bilateral connections that India has, relations that India has with the US, the Russia, and many other countries around the world, with the European Union. We've been able to come across as a very strong nation over the past decade especially. And of course, we're all aware of some of the grave threats that we have that stops the growth of the country: corruption, extreme social division, internal security threats, religious extremism, and so on and so forth. The list is endless when we look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. That becoming the SWOT analysis and the second part of the larger conversation of the role of the youth of India in leading India to become a global superpower. The third is my most favorite part, as I said earlier, right? And this is what can be the driving force for India's growth in the coming decades. And this, you call it a fool's hope or or an optimist's belief, whatever you call it. I truly believe in this ideology. So let's deep dive into it. I truly believe the power of the youth that we have today. 65% of India's population is just under the age of 35. We have the highest population of the young, youthful people in the world, which means we are a strong army of workforce. That is a very big advantage as compared to a lot of countries around the world, be it China, the United States, a lot of countries in the European Union, Russia. We have the highest, India has the highest amount of the youth population in the world. But there are some challenges as we discussed. But what is it that we can do with this youth population that can bring about a massive impact in the coming years? So to understand that, I want to just start with a small story. A story that has actually been a reality and has changed the course of India, for that matter, or the history and cultural aspect of India in the past 3-4 decades. So back in the year 1983, there was an underdog cricketing nation which went on to play the World Cup final with 3-time champions. Yes, I'm talking about Kapil Dev's Indian team that went on to compete with West Indies. It looked like a joke when the media around the world said that, okay, India's going to give it a shot to play the World Cup finals, the Prudential Cup finals against the team West Indies, right? Let's just for a second pause here and look at what do we mean by competency. Competency is the knowledge you have, the skill sets you have, and more importantly, the mindset that you endorse, the mindset you believe in, you live it up. It's not just the knowledge and skill set that is equivalent to everything that you do in life. You can get better, you can perform better if you have a mindset that fosters more productivity and efficiency with the knowledge and skill sets that you have. Coming back to the story of the 1983 Prudential Cup, who would have thought that a team like India, an underdog team, could go out there and become the world champions? You know what? Now let's look at what happens from there on. In the next 10 years, cricket becomes one of the biggest sports in the country. A sport that was not originally an Indian sport. We got that sport thanks to the Britishers, thanks to the East India Company, however you would look at it as, the Great Britain, who influenced us to learn that game and eventually went on to become the world champions. In the next 10 years, cricket becomes a very big sporting activity, sporting action in the country. The cricketing players become major influencers in the socio-economic aspect of how we process things. And in the next 20 years from the World Cup, cricket becomes the religion, and there are gods now that emerge out of cricket. Some of the finest players in the world and of course of the country, like Sachin Tendulkar, becomes a god-like figure in India. Cut to another 5 years from then, in the year 2008, that is 25 years from India becoming the world champions of the Prudential Cup, beating the West Indians, the 3-time world champion West Indians. We start the Indian Premier League, which in today's times is even a bigger sporting spectacle than that of the World Cup, the Cricket World Cup. What I'm trying to say is this. It just took us less than 3 decades to be an underdog nation, to be the ruling champions, and to also become very powerful as a cricketing nation in just a matter of less than 3 decades, right? And why did that happen? And that happened primarily, one of the biggest factors or reasons, in my opinion, is the resilience of the youth. It's the way we invested into the sports, we looked at it as an opportunity to grow and evolve, and how that has also brought about a lot of geopolitical impact, especially when we've played with our neighbors like Pakistan at various games, and how it has enhanced, how sports has brought together two countries with sour history and have brought about large impacts over the period of time. But what I'm trying to say is how the youth can help is this. We need to work on our mindset. If the youth of the country is empowered with a strong growth mindset, the potential reality that India can become a global superpower, a very big influencer at a global level, is just a consequence of that. So according to me, I have a 3-framework solution to work on our growth mindset. This is my understanding of it, and this is what I call the PEE framework, the PEE framework, right? The P stands for a purpose-driven life. It's important that the youth of the country is invested into identifying what their purpose in life is. What is it that they really love doing, and how is it that that love of theirs, that knowledge, that skill set can be put together along with the power of technology, combined with the power of technology, and bring about a larger difference in this world? How can it create an impact? If there is that purpose that the youth of the country is invested into, that's the first stage for moving towards a growth mindset with such a large population. The second one, as I said, the PEE framework. The second E stands for empathy. A culture of empathy that needs to be instilled within the youth of the country. The ability to look at someone, understand their problems, and not just understand it, but process it, feel it, and bring about a difference to that. That needs to be there, because some of the larger problems in our everyday life is not that because people have a different opinion, point of view, or perspective about things, and that might necessarily not be the ones that we believe in. The problem begins in our life when we are unable to accept the differing views of people. If we think apple is the best and there is someone else who thinks apple is not good for them and mango is better for them, it hurts us suddenly. We are unable to accept that. We're unable to understand that it's okay and it's possible that people can have different point of views, perspectives, likes, dislikes. And when we are able to build a culture of empathy, and what do we mean by culture, right? When the larger part of the society believes in something and acts accordingly, right? That becomes the culture. When empathy becomes instilled in every youth of the country, right? Each and every youth of the country, it'll become the driving force for a lot of difference. We won't be invested into fighting with each other over difference of opinions. A lot of threats that we discussed about, weaknesses that we discussed about the country will be taken away. And third, and the most integral part of the PEE framework, a purpose-driven life, a culture of empathy, and third one, an entrepreneurial spirit. Well, a lot of us might identify entrepreneurialism as some sort of a number crunching, profit and loss, quarterly review game. Well, that might be part of the process of being an entrepreneur. But the real core of entrepreneurialism is the ability to solve a problem. Well, once you have a purpose-driven life, once you've started your journey on doing things, using your knowledge and skill set and mindset to create a larger impact beyond yourself, the foundation of it is built with empathy. And then you further add an entrepreneurial spirit. You're able to solve problems. You're able to identify whatever challenges everybody goes through, and you're able to solve problems. Wow. In a field like agriculture, where more than 50% of the country is engaged and hardly 17% of the country's GDP comes from agriculture, imagine the impact that we could have if we had purpose-driven youth, scientists, physicists, biologists, chemistry experts, all of them coming together, understanding the various challenges we face. And if we are able to devise some sort of a problem-solving solution by understanding the problems people face, imagine the growth that we can have only in the agricultural industry. Forget about everything else. Over 50% of the population is dependent on agriculture as an occupation. Just to cut it short, I might not be an expert of economics or expert in the field of military or geopolitical understanding of things. And I agree I am not. I'm just another average Joe who considers himself to be a storyteller and wants to use the power of technology and whatever knowledge and skill set, a bit that I have, to use that to ignite a fire in the youth of the country, to remind them that yes, if an underdog team in the year of 1983 go ahead and defeat the world champions, just with a true strength of resilience, not because they were better players than the others, maybe because they had a stronger mindset, they had that hunger to go and get it. If that was the defining thing, and whatever has happened to the game of cricket in the next couple of decades in the country, and we see India becoming the major player in the scene, I truly believe today India has a great opportunity to bring about a landmark difference in the history, geopolitical situation ahead in the future of the world. Well, once again, it might be a fool's hope or an optimist's belief. I don't know, will India become a global superpower or not? I'm not the right one to answer that question. Well, time will tell us that. There are experts who can predict certain things, take certain parameters into consideration and can come up with conclusions. Well, of course, the immediate future that we grow into will tell us, will India become a global superpower or not? But I am more invested into the idea that yes, if the youth of the nation comes together, decides that it needs to work on a growth mindset, where we can instill it with a purpose-driven life, a culture of empathy and an entrepreneurial spirit, I truly believe the consequence of that will be that India will have the ability to influence the world across various parameters of economics, military, technology, politics and culture. Well, with that, I just want to end this session by putting a question to you. If you were told that you could bring about a difference not just in your life but also in the lives of others, would you be invested to work on it? Thank you very much.